Gives me great pleasure to introduce Katharina to everybody. Katharina works for Indra Navia, which is a Norwegian customer of XDocs, and have done some really neat stuff, which we're going to show you today. First, go through some actual introductions. I will let her introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Katarina Parkovic. As Rick said, I work as a technical writer for Indra Navia. I'm a translator by education and have worked both as a translator and a technical writer, mostly as a technical writer. I'm relatively new to DITA. I started working with that when I joined Indra Navia 3 years ago. And as a writer, I've worked in different markets, mainly for the oil and gas industry, mainly big machines, and then switched to software documentation when I started to work with air traffic management solutions. Back to you, Rick.
Okay, just for people who don't know me, I work for Bluestream, so I will put my hands up now. And I am from a vendor. I've been working with DITA for 14 years, and I look after the Bluestream interests in the EMEA region. So just a little bit about Bluestream. This isn't a hard sell on our technology, but we have been around for 23 years now. We've worked with XML content management for over 16 years, and we like open standards. Some of our customers, we've covered every possible vertical market, every possible geographical region, and every size of team, from a single author up to teams of 200 plus spread all over the world. And I think that's the complete end of the Bluestream pitch on this, but we can take questions afterwards. For those that missed it, as you're coming in a little bit later, this webinar is being recorded and it will be up on the Bluestream website tomorrow, and I'll send links out to everybody so that you don't have to go searching too hard. Now, this project actually included some other companies, so just want to give a shout out to DocStream. DocStream are a technology company based near Oslo in Norway. Very, very highly skilled, lots of XML experience both in DITA and S1000D. So if you're in the Nordic regions, then and you're looking for some help and some expertise, then I can't actually praise DocStream high enough. They're really good company, really nice guys, and if you get in touch with me, I can share the details with them as well, so that you can reach out to Oral Christian and Beate there. And I'm going to hand over now back to Katharina, and this is mostly her from now on in.
Yeah, DocStream was our local partner. They ran the whole conversion project, and they also support us with XDocs, all the questions we have. They implemented the interface to Elekta, what I'm going to show in a few minutes' time. So they were our local point of contact. Yes, I work for Indra, or Indra Navia in Norway. We are part of a Spanish group of companies. We are about 200 employees. Our systems are installed in worldwide, and we are covering our clients are air navigation service providers, ANSPs. So we deliver solutions to airports, both very large and complex airports and small airports. Now we can go to the next slide. Our solutions basically supports flight from departure to landing. We have voice communication systems enabling the tower communicating with the pilots. We have instrumented landing systems, and we have surveillance systems that are used in the airport tower, giving the tower controllers an overview of the air traffic situation and helping them maintaining safe separation between flights. I work with the tower systems. An airport or an airport tower can have responsibility for different areas of the airport. There are systems covering the ground, systems covering the approach area. Lately, we have been offering more and more remote systems that can be interesting as a backup system, contingency system, that can be also interesting for very small airports where it's not efficient to have a controller sitting there all the time when there's just a few flights during the day. And we also have systems for handling electronic flight strips that is used to give clearances to flights. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because when you think about documentation, it means that we have a common base, one common document on any module, and then we need different versions depending on what kind of system we're talking about. On the next slide, we will see an example view of an airport tower. This is London Heathrow, very busy airport, or at least it used to be. They're running 2 parallel runways. They have installed an Innova ground system. The small dark blue screen, that is our controller working position, our traffic overview. On the next slide, you will see that a little bit closer. It actually changed. They just got a new system upgrade. So the controllers typically have this screen with a map of the airport. They see all the flights with labels in different colors for departures and arrivals. The system has a menu, the system has a toolbar, the system has flight plan lists. There's an inset window showing the approach area on this one. And another example, just to illustrate a bit better, that's another controller working position for a different project. Again, you have the map, you have the flights with labels in different colors, you have the toolbar, you have flight plan lists, but on this version, the flight plan lists have action buttons. You can give clearances directly from here. There are also routing and guidance function on this position. Again, what it means for documentation, it's a common base with different configuration. That means you need different versions of the same document. So now I'm going to talk a bit about the challenges we faced when I came on board before we converted to DITA and to XDocs. Basically, our documentation, we reuse our documentation through the whole product lifecycle. We use the same documents in the bid phase, or the product, I'm talking about the product descriptions now. We use them in the bid phase, but we also use them in the project phase. We need to, in the bid phase, we need to reply to a statement of compliance, trace system requirements, and we need to adapt the content of the documentation accordingly. Previously, our documents were created in Microsoft Word, so there was a lot of manual editing and especially deleting functions that are not needed, because usually we deliver, or our customers require us to deliver customized documentation, so they don't want to read about functions they didn't buy. Before I came on board, there was also no technical writer resource, so there was a lot of cleanup to do. We had content from many different authors, different styles, and not all the functions were documented. And a lot of time was used for searching for information and editing the same kind of documentation over and over again. So we wanted to restructure and modularize our documents to make them, to adapt them for reuse, break up the content in small pieces, and make the texts more generic. We needed to separate the content from the formatting. We wanted to automatically generate different versions of one document instead of creating those versions manually. Make the content more accessible within the organization. Mainly, we wanted to have one single source and then create different output from that. Still be able to reuse our documentation throughout the product lifecycle. And we also wanted to enable release-based publishing and increase the number of releases per year. So it was obvious that we needed a different solution. We ran a pilot project for a few months where we defined the scope and we went through a vendor selection process. We evaluated two DITA-based products and a different one, and then decided we would go with XDocs through DocStream. And then that was before I started, when I came on board, we started the main conversion. And then we did that step by step. There was a lot to learn, a lot of documentation to go through, to structure, to break up. So we did it document by document. And I made sure I went thoroughly through everyone before chucking it over into the CMS. And DocStream supported us with they developed a script where they could automatically convert the documents and import them into the database. Just some technical background on the tools that they chose. The conversion script was based on XML Mind. And then they selected DITA Open Toolkit and Antenna House Formatter. I think that is basically to provide the output, because these are off-the-shelf tools that needed little adaptation and were easy to handle. So that's why DocStream decided to use these. I think you can jump to the next slide. Are you still there, Rick? Yes. So the user interface for me is XDocs Explorer, where I manage my data maps, my document structure, and then I use Oxygen Author to edit the documents. We also have web interface that we're using for the approval workflow, so people don't have to log into, get an XDocs license and log into the system to approve content. That can very easily be done with a web-based solution. And I also have an external tool to manage releases. Yes. To give you some practical examples, we have converted quite a few documents by now. And for each document, we have one single source in the document database. And then we can automatically publish different versions. Here I typically have the Nova Ground, Approach, Strip system that I talked about before, but we actually added a few more systems in the meantime. So I get the different title page, as is visible on this slide. but I also get different content, different text, different images, text in the headers and footers. So it's very convenient, everything fully automatically. To achieve this, I defined a set of metadata, which I can add both on topic level. So I can open the data map in Oxygen Author and add the metadata on the different chapters to make sure a certain chapter is only included for an Innova ground system. But I can, of course, also add this metadata in the text itself, as you can see on the next slide. So I can both use that for paragraphs, for images, but also for single text elements within a paragraph. Yep. Next slide. When it comes to reuse, our product descriptions are basically, as I said, we use the same documents in the bid and the project phase, but in the bid phase, we only want to show the different features. We don't need to tell how to operate them. So I can use another metadata to filter out the operator instructions. So I also structured all the texts in that way that I can remove the operator instructions when I don't want them. So to sum up, what we can achieve with XDocs alone is, this is my publishing interface. I select the format. We use PDF and Word for the time being. I select the system type, and then I select the release. This is per now a timestamp that I manage in an external tool. So everything I updated until a certain time is part of the current release. And then I close that and start working on the next one. Yep. So that's XDocs on its own. And then we took that one step further. We started working with a product configurator. And there we chose a product from a Dutch company called Econ Solutions. They just recently merged with another company and are now going to change their name to Extralogics. They specialize in CPQ software, configure, price, quote. Very hard for me to pronounce. So CPQ. That's a web-based tool that allows you to configure a product, to make selections, and then integrate this with an ERP system. They're mainly working with Microsoft Dynamics applications. So you can create bid documentation. We are using Microsoft Dynamics. That's why we chose that vendor. And with our tool, Elekta is our internal name, internal product name. With that tool, we integrate quite a few systems. Elekta links to our CRM system, so we get project or opportunity data from there. Elekta links to Microsoft Dynamics, so we get cost information on the modules we select. And directly from Elekta, we can create a bid document with pricing and schedules and everything. But we also use Elekta now as an additional filter when we generate our product documentation. Because by configuring the product, by selecting all the functions we need, pass this information on to XDocs. So we get documents, for example, for an Innova ground system, but with only the functions that we have chosen. So we don't have to go into the documents and delete all the unused functionality anymore. We do the same thing towards a different database. IBM Rational Doors. That's where we keep our requirements. So we can also automatically generate the system requirements document. So we started that about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, also including a pilot. And I'm now in Bit. We are using our Git managers are using Electa quite actively, and we are slowly starting using that for projects too. Yeah. This is a very technical slide that Bjarte once created. It sort of illustrates what happens when we push the documents button on Electa, because then Electa will send a chase message to XDocs. The chase message contains the system type, metadata, document type, and then all the, we call them config items. That's all the different, let's call them the features that we selected in the product configurator. So then XDocs knows which chapters, which topics to produce or to include in the document. So then XDocs starts producing the different documents and sends feedback back to Electa. And this is how it looks like on the user interface on Electa. So you would typically have different functions, check them off. You have a dedicated tab to create documentation. There you select what document types you want to have, the software release, and then you send the commands to XDocs, and XDocs will start producing and provides feedback, so you will always see the document, the creation status. So this is actually quite handy. And to achieve this, I use an additional level of metadata, the config items I was just mentioning. These are basically the item numbers of the products we have in Microsoft Dynamics. We also created, we have hardware items, of course, but we also created software items in our ERP system. So these are the common denominator that link all the systems together. These have a unique code, which is used in the ERP system, which is used in Electa, and also in XDocs and in our requirements database. So that's the means how to link the documentation together, and to make sure you will get customized documentation with only the features you chose. And these metadata I can add to chapters in XDocs Explorer. Yeah, to sum up, if we think back to the challenges we had, we have solved most of them. We are good on our way with structured and modularized documents. There's always room for improvement, but we have a model we can work with. We broke up the content in small pieces. We created the text in a more generic matter. We can reuse texts. We obviously separated the content from the formatting. We have, since I started working for Indra, had a small rebranding, and instead of having to create all the documents from scratch again or change the formatting for each of them, Workstream changed the formatting for us or changed the template in XDocs, and we just needed to print the documents one more time. So that was, again, very handy. We can now automatically generate different versions of the same document, and through, not least through Electa, the documents are much easier available for everyone in the organization. We use a single source for content, can generate different output. We could use HTML output too. We just haven't looked into that yet. We can reuse the content throughout the product lifecycle. So as I mentioned earlier, people have started using Electro for bits quite regularly, and we are in the process of starting using them for projects. We can handle release-based publishing for the main releases. Not for, we also have dot releases, we call them. That's basically sub-versions, sub-releases of the main releases. But these are not always chronological, so we have to find a way how to support this, because the tool I'm using now is working with the timestamp. We can create requirements automatically, but the tracing between customer requirements and our own requirements is still a manual job. So that is nothing we will solve anytime soon. Just a few things maybe from our to share for general reference, some lessons learned from our conversion project. This is mostly input from DocStream. It's very important to do a pilot phase and define the requirements very well before you start a project like that. Be very clear what you want to achieve and define it very accurately. Yes, from the vendor side, they need a good specification, then it's easy for them to specify the product. The fourth point is from me, the cleanup process. I think I mentioned that earlier. XDocs, DocStream, they were very eager to start converting because they had developed that nice script and everything. And I was holding back because I really needed to clean up the source. So from my point of view, it's extremely important to have the structure ready, to have a good structure in place, and to clean up before you just dump everything into the database. Otherwise, it will be shit in, shit out. The better you prepare before, the better the output will get afterwards. And then from both of us, of course, communication, have a good communication, have frequent meetings throughout the process, then there will be less misunderstandings and it's easier to match the timeline. That's basically what I had to say about our solutions. So
thank you.
I give the word back to Rick.
Thank you very much. I think that's really neat. I think what you've got there is one of the neatest solutions that I've seen for a long while. So we can take questions. I think it also reiterates what you can do with good metadata, and sort of helps emphasize that, you know, metadata is so important in all these solutions in order to get the final product that you're looking for. I'm going to put, we've got one more slide before questions, and it's just where this fits into the whole XDocs lifecycle. We're doing a lot of work with manufacturing companies now, and we see this as just as relevant to a manufacturing company as it is to a company like Angel, with very complex solutions built around mostly on software. So where I would see it in as a complete solution, we've got this bid preparation side of things that we're doing now. You see that's possible, generating all these specific outputs, but we've also got a machine industry module that actually will work with, if you're a manufacturing company, work with bombs, similar to the Elector selecting things, you bring bills of material in, and you can then build your catalogues and then send your content out as IPC, so you can create interactive technical manuals as well and link all of this back into a fulfillment system. So we've got from actually creating bids to actually start off a project right through to once something's delivered and perhaps in the field and someone's going off and needs to order some tools or some components in order to repair something. So that's where it's sitting within the Bluestream idea here. So this is at the front end, and we've also got stuff at the back end, and it's an all-rounded thing. So I'm going to try and move on to questions now. So you can type questions within the there's a little conversation bubble, so you can ask some questions of us via that. Unfortunately, you're all muted because these things get complicated if we have lots of people talking. It's very hard to moderate a number of people on a webinar. So we're here if you've got any questions. If you prefer, we are more than happy. You can email questions to me. I think I've foolishly not put my email address on that slide, which I normally would have, but you can get me via info@bluestream.com or rickp, RIKP, @bluestream.com. I can't, I'm not going to attempt to spell out Katharina's email address because I'm bound to get it wrong, and you won't get anywhere with that. So I haven't seen any questions yet. So can I ask of you, Katharina, how did you go about defining the metadata?
That was based on our product structure.
Right.
I mean, the main systems were quite, yeah, they were quite obvious. We changed a bit in between. Yeah, we have the system metadata, we have document types, of course, but the really big thing in connection with Electa were the config items, because there we had to modularize our product, and we ended up with quite many. Yeah, we tried to keep them as little as possible, but we have about 300 config items to be able to capture the complexity of the product. It's a very complex product. So that was a process that went. That's an ongoing process. There are new metadata with each software release as we are releasing new features, and the main thing is actually we have standard functions that are included anyway, and then we have options. That's everything that's sold as a separate that has an additional price.
Okay, so I've had a question come in about are you using the audience attribute?
What do you mean by that?
It's a stand. It sits in DITA as a. Well, I think
yes, no, I don't use that.
Metadata where you can
Yeah.
specify the audience type. I suspect, yeah, I can see how it would work with online help, but with your current outputs, less important, I would think, because of where that sits. But a fair question.
Yeah, no, I don't use that yet. We are also not using translations yet, because the question came in about translating. That's on the agenda, definitely, but we haven't started yet. We use English so far.
But am I right in saying that within air traffic control, the world over, English is the standard language, or in most of them?
Yes, it is, but we are delivering documentation in different languages, mostly for our landing systems. all those handbooks come in different languages per default. It's not something we use in Tower very much.
Okay, thank you very much. We're sort of waiting for other. Right, so like I say, we'll put the recording up on the website. I have to say thank you very much to Katharina. I've actually been lucky enough to see Electa sort of demonstrated to me, and it is a really neat tool. The way you can go through and select the various options and build the documentation based on the selected options, I think is like I say, it's one of the cleverest things I've seen in a long while, and is very good. So please, if you have any questions whatsoever, ping them through to us. If I can't, if it's specific to what's been done at Indra, obviously I will just forward that on to Katharina. But it just leaves me to say thank you once more, everybody who's come along, and thank you, Katharina, for the time you've taken to prepare and show this today. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye
Welcome.
to everybody. Okay. Thanks, guys.